Welcome to the C-Files, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I apologize for there being a span of a week before I was able to post anything once again. I was suspended from YouTube for a week for, quote, medical misinformation. Now, the best I could discern is that the crime of medical misinformation and a 1 week sentence in YouTube penitentiary was due to a clip that we played on the Vortex Apologetic podcast of the incoming National Institute of Health director, who happens to be a Stanford medical professor, highly qualified in the field of medicine. We played a short clip of some statements that he made, and that was enough when we tried to post the podcast onto YouTube. That was enough to get us suspended for medical misinformation. Now, there are other great medical professors, or professionals, I should say, that have been kicked off of YouTube for medical misinformation. Dr. McAuliffe, one of the top cardiologists in the country, was kicked off of YouTube for, guess what? Medical misinformation. Judy Mitrovic, a medical researcher, an expert in how vaccines are developed, who worked under Dr. Fauci in the National Institute of Health, and was at one point opposed to the things that Dr. Fauci was saying. She was kicked off of YouTube for, guess what? Medical misinformation. Dr. Robert Malone, the inventor of mRNA, medical researcher, was kicked off of YouTube for, guess what? Medical misinformation. Now, what got them kicked off? Well, there's only two possibilities, and maybe a combination of the two. Either it was the algorithm on YouTube, violation of community standards, medical misinformation, according to the algorithm written into the software by a computer programmer who has no medical background at all, but is depending upon the information that has been put out to YouTube by bureaucrats in medical agencies in the federal government, and bureaucrats who don't practice medicine, by the way, who don't see patients on a regular basis. The information put out by them is used to build the algorithm. And so therefore, these computer programmers are depending upon federal bureaucrats for their information on how to build the algorithm for YouTube community guidelines when it comes to medical information. Or the other possibility, or a combination of the two, is the fact checkers, human element fact checkers. Now, I sarcastically like to say the 30-year-old in his mom's basement with an 18-year-old maturity level making minimum wage, typing on a computer, being a, quote, fact checker, end quote. That's sarcasm on my part. I don't know what they make, and I don't know what their maturity level is. But you kind of get that idea when you realize that it's fact checkers who have kicked off a lot of doctors and medical professionals, kicked them off of YouTube for doing what? For talking about medical issues. their area of expertise, but kicked off for medical misinformation. So, the question I have to ask the audience is simply this: who do you trust the most? The computer logarithm and the fact checkers who have no medical background at all, but are depending upon federal bureaucrats for their information? Or do you trust the medical professionals who are actually seeing patients, actually doing the research, actually are up to date on the latest studies and findings in the medical world? Or do you trust them for your medical information? The bureaucrats that are pressuring YouTube win out every time when it comes to the community guidelines. But my question is, who wins out when it comes to your trust? Who do you trust? Do you trust Dr. Robert Malone, Judy Mitrovic, Dr. McCullough, Dr. Stella, and other medical professionals when it comes to understanding what you should do when it comes to shots and pandemics? Or do you trust bureaucrats in Washington dictating to social media platforms what they are to put into their community guidelines? Which one do you trust? I know who I trust. And I have made my medical decisions when it comes to shots and pandemics based upon who I trust. Now, here's the thing, YouTube executives, YouTube fact checkers, YouTube programmers. You do not suspend me on my channel for a week without getting called out. I'm not a coward that grovels at your feet begging for your mercy. Do you understand? So I'm calling you out because you've yielded to the bureaucrats and not to the medical professionals. Now, I was able to successfully load that information up onto Rumble. So if you go to Rumble, my channel on Rumble is Old Man Talking, and all squeezed together is one word, and the first letter of each word is capitalized. So the O in old is capitalized, the M in man is capitalized, the T in talking is capitalized, everything else is lowercase. Old Man Talking, as no separation between them, all one word. That's my channel on Rumble. You could also go to the Vortex Apologetic podcast and the Podbean podcast, Spotify. They are not censoring that information, so you can get it there as well. When it comes to YouTube, I'm going to do my best to respect their community guidelines. So I will not be talking about certain subject matter on YouTube simply because I cannot do so without giving you false information, without lying to you in order to please the community guidelines. I will not lie to you, and I will not put out misinformation to you simply because the guidelines demand it of me. So I will avoid those subjects and I will go to other subjects that are not so heavily censored. So that's an update on what's happening with the channel. This channel will focus on, I'll still talk about current events, but only certain current events while on YouTube. And I will continue to talk about scripture and how does Scripture relate to current events. Thank you for watching. I hope that helps with an explanation as to why I have not been on here for a while. I don't know how much longer this channel will be up because I don't know when I'm going to end up violating. It's hard to know when you're violating a community guideline sometimes because they're not super clear on where the boundary lines are. When you read the guidelines, they're pretty vague. So it's guesswork. But I will do the best I can to keep the channel going under the strict guidelines of the bureaucrats. Now, let me make a quick prediction, and that is this. This kind of bureaucratic censorship is the reason, one of the main reasons, Donald Trump was reelected as president. It's this kind of you will do as I say or else mentality from the government, this top-down approach to certain subject matters, dictating to us how we are to think and what we are to think and what we can say, what we can't say, what words we can use, how we are to address people, all the woke nonsense, all of the medical misinformation being put out by the bureaucrats from the federal government and other subjects of that nature. It's because of that Trump won re-election. It's because of that the people in this country are rising up and saying, we're fed up with this, we're sick and tired of it, and your days are numbered. And their days are numbered. Their day of reigning over us like tyrannical kings are about to end. And they're going to hit a hard crash. And I think it's going to shock the nation over the next, 2025 is going to utterly shock the nation when the corruption in our government is exposed. It's going to shock the nation when mayors of sanctuary cities are arrested and brought to trial. When governors of sanctuary states are arrested and brought to trial for violating federal law. It's going to shock the nation. It has, the medical information continues to come out from doctors from all over the world who have had enough. They're sick and tired of it. They're tired of seeing people succumb to the bad treatments that they're receiving. And they're sick and tired of seeing it as they continue to come out and continue to fight back and continue to go on other platforms and tell the truth. Platforms like YouTube's credibility will continue to suffer sorely. I don't think CNN is going to last another 2 years before they hit the trash heap of history, especially after Mark Robinson is finished with his lawsuit against them for slander, which lost him the North Carolina governor's election. Now we have a Governor Cooper, who is doing nothing, absolutely nothing, to help the people of Western North Carolina who are still suffering, and people are freezing to death up in those mountains. Cooper's doing nothing. Why? Well, he's working for his globalist Democrat masters, that's why. Oh, and the new governor that's going to be coming in, he'll be no different. Don't expect him to come in and help those folks in Western North Carolina. They vote for the other party. so he's not going to help them. He's also working for his globalist Democrat masters. I don't think the Republicans are getting away scot-free either. There are many Republicans working for their globalist Republican masters, and that's to shake up in the Republican Party. There are a lot of Republicans that rebelled against the globalist Republican masters and said, we will not be under you anymore. We are going to rebel, we are going to revolt, and we are going to take you down. And that's exactly what happened in this election. These people have been taken down. Stand by. 2025 is going to be the year that justice is enacted. Not fake justice like we've had so far. Real justice. And those who are guilty of crimes, federal crimes, state crimes, local crimes, crimes against the American people, the violation of laws, who have gotten away with it over the last 4 years, they will be held accountable. I'm predicting that YouTube they're going to have to change their community guidelines, because in 2025, the information that's going to come out of the National Institute of Health is going to harshly contradict the information that came out from the bureaucrats over the last 4 years. Either the community guidelines of YouTube are going to be contrary to the new NIH of 2025, or they're going to conform. And it won't be what it is now. It's about time. Thanks for watching. God bless. I'll see you next time on the C-Files.